Very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Scott.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Young, for being here. What are going to be what do you think our federal receipts will be in this fiscal year?
Senator, let me see if the team has the exact number, but
I think it's just a little, I think it's estimated to be a little less than 3.5 trillion. And then for next year, I think your budget would suggest that we're going to get 4.1 trillion. Does that sound right?
no, well, I have it as a percent of GDP, so that would not equal up to yours. But historically, post-war average, 17.2% of GDP are receipts, and our 10-year average is 19.3.
So if you look at the way I think about it is, you're going to go from a little less than 3.5 trillion to over 4.1 trillion dollars. I think that's about a 17% increase in receipts in 1 year. You think we've ever done that? A 17% increase in federal receipts? I've never seen it.
Well, if we take the investments we have offered for IRS and others to make sure we collect what the federal government has asked of people, what the tax law says, that is our hope to increase it by that much.
I've never seen the federal government be able to increase its receipts by 17% in 1 year. And so I think what you said when Senator Brown asked you that your belief is that we ought to do everything we can to live within our budget and pay for things. So let's assume that the Senate doesn't pass all these tax increases. What would you do? How would you deal with your budget then?
I mean, Senator Scott, I can make a lot of predictions, but my guess is if the Senate doesn't pass the offsets, the spending is also in danger. So we'd have to see the full package that the Senate and House would move on.
So right now, we're getting close to $30 trillion total debt. I think public debt is over $24 trillion, which is bigger than our GDP, right?
Yep.
So if you look at that now, if you look at, I think the 10-year average for Treasury is over 5%, right? So your projection after this year of we're going to see, I guess, it looks like people are talking about 6% increase, but after that it'd be 2% or less per year of GDP growth.
Yeah, and as I talked to Senator Kaine about, we've seen growth since these budget estimates were assumed, so you should expect some update of that through our mid-session review.
So how do we ever balance a budget if we already have our federal debt in excess of our GDP, if our GDP is going to grow around 2%, and realistically we're not going to have low interest rates forever? As a matter of fact, we've been at a historical low, so if you look at history, things go to above actually historical averages. So how would we ever get a balanced budget? And if we don't, how's that going to impact our poorest families with inflation?
Yeah, Senator Scott, there are a lot of assumptions in there. I would, in that scenario, I would question including the interest rate. We're not seeing long-term indicators that show we're going back to the 70s with interest rates. So we do think we have the fiscal space to make these investments, but we also do believe that you have to put forth a proposal to pay for these investments over time, which is why we've done that. So we are reducing the deficit. But as you know, we have an aging society, which is part of the structural growth in spending we're not addressing, because we don't think we should be cutting Social Security and Medicare at this time. And if the choice is between that and asking the wealthiest to pay more, that's what we need to do.
So we know that the Medicare Trust Fund and the Social Security Trust Fund they're clearly depleting. So what did you do in the budget with regard to them?
So the budget, actually, I'm glad you brought this up, suggests that we would switch to the general fund to pay for those programs, so benefits would not be cut. So we do still have to deal with larger structural offsets, how you pay for that, how you grow the economy. But we would assume that those benefits will be paid for out of the general fund if the trust funds do run out of money.
So when you think about getting a return on investment, so you said we're going to make these investments and we're going to get a return. How do you see that we get a return? When you look at the numbers, we never get to a balanced budget.
A balanced budget is certainly one goal. It is a goal you speak to. I think another goal is to make sure that we're flattening the curve and debt as a percentage of GDP does not grow. But we also do really care about, and most economists tell us, It's a better indicator to look at what we're paying on real debt service. And we do think those payments will remain low, but we also think we need to grow the economy, which these investments would do.
Thank you.
Thank you.